Before we get into the video, I just want to say a massive thank you to Dynamic Foot for partnering the channel. And obviously, with it being a card design video, make sure you go and show them some love. If any of these cards you like the look of, or indeed any other icons you want to see with a FIFA 21 design, or any of the FIFA 20 designs, plus the other FIFA 21 designs when they are out, make sure you go check them out. You can get yourselves any of those cards, pick the designs, pick the images, all sorts, and they will make it for you. Your own stats, even if it's a picture of yourself or a friend or whatever. It's a fantastic place to go. And if you use code Hursty at checkout, you get 50% off your second card. So if you have 2 cards in the basket, the second one will be 50% off. And that code does change, so make sure you keep updated with it. I'll try my best to keep you guys updated with it too. But I want to say thank you to them, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's get on with the icons we've picked.
Games. Whoop. Let's go. Hursty Games, and this is how we do. Now it's time we team up.
Hey there guys, welcome back to Hursty Games, and welcome to another FIFA 21 concept car video. You guys seem to be wanting to see more of these, so I'm making more of them, and I'm trying to mix it up and add some different things. Now today's video, we're going to look at some FIFA 21 icons I would absolutely love to see. Hopefully you guys like the idea of this as well. Some of them, the stats and stuff, I've had to guess a little bit, or you know, try and work out a little bit off of my thoughts, and there's one in there that could be deemed as very biased, but it's the one icon I would love to see added to FIFA 20. But without further ado, let's get into it. We've got 10 to look at today. Let's see which cards I've added. Let's go for it. Okay, so up first, I've gone with a Spanish legend, and that is Xavi. Now, again, a lot of these players are iconics for me, for like players that I've watched growing up as a kid, or players that I, you know, can appreciate how good they were, or all sorts of different things. Now for me, obviously, when I think of Xavi, obviously it's in that Barca kit, it's running that midfield, and for me, I think this guy would be insane. His passing was always like a massive thing for him. He was like the Spanish equivalent of Pirlo. You know, everyone would always go on about how good a passer Pirlo is. Everyone would always go on about how good a passer Xavi was, and he was honestly fantastic. And I'd be very surprised if he doesn't get some form of icon. I don't really know what it is he's doing nowadays. I don't know if he's into management or what, but I think that this would be a fantastic card to see. And realistically, I think my stats are somewhat, I don't know, somewhat good. We'll go with, yeah, they look alright. But Xavi is definitely the first one on my list. And again, I went with the 94, and I don't really know with the rating. Again, it's a bit of a guesswork. Like, I think 94 seems about right. I think he was a phenomenal player, and I'd love to see him in the game. Up next is a defender who was incredible at Manchester United, and wherever else he played, I assume he also did pretty darn good. But that is Nemanja Vidic. For me, one of, if not the best centre-back that the Prem's ever seen. He's definitely, at least for me, like top 3. I think he will very easily get an icon at some point. It's whether he gets one now, I don't know. I know that on some of the stuff FIFA 20 this year, there's been like images of like an icon Vidic on like certain little tabs and stuff. It's been really strange, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him come in. I don't think he'll quite get the same rating as Maldini. I think it'll be very close, regardless of what rating he gets. I'm not too sure. I went with the 94 just because it felt right with the stats that I kind of gave him as well. And I think if he did get a card, I think he'd be very used because of his high defense and physicality stats. I think he would be a very high mix on both. And I really do think Vidic would be a really cool card to use. Next is a player that I think, honestly, is one of the best players we've seen in the Premier League, and that is Yaya Toure. I think he's an absolute beast. Wherever he went and played, he always seemed to do very well. And I think he'd be a phenomenal card in the game as well. I really think he'd fit probably whatever meta there could be for 21. Like, he's not slow, he's strong, he's good at passing, he's got great shooting, he's physical. Like, realistically, I think he'd be a very sought out for card for a lot of pros and a lot of football fans in general. I think Yaya Toure was always genuinely quite popular. He's the kind of card I can see having like a really low rated base but getting big boosts in between. So sort of getting like an 86 as a base and getting like +3 every time. That kind of stupid thing. But regardless, I think Toure would be a phenomenal card. And if he did get a card, it's one of those ones that it's an icon I think that would be very desirable and a lot of people would love to get in their team. So I think Yaya Toure would be a great addition to the game. I think fullbacks are a position that definitely need boosting in FIFA 21 in regards to the icon market. And Philipp Lahm, I think, would tick a lot of boxes for a lot of people. A fantastic player. Honestly, in my opinion, he's like the original Joshua Kimmich. I've got a lot of love for Joshua Kimmich on this channel. I think he's a phenomenal footballer. For me, Philipp Lahm was just the same player, but, you know, obviously already has that iconic status and really was an incredible fullback. Won everything with Bayern Munich. And I think, you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see him getting an icon card. He wasn't the quickest of players, so I do think the pace will be a tad low on his card, but you know, chem styles are a thing and would make him very, very usable. I think he'd be a really fun card to get in, and as long as he was half decent in game, because he's not very tall, much like Zanetti in game, I think he's a card that there'd be a lot of call for, and I think there are some big German icons that haven't been added yet, and I'd expect to see in the next couple of years, and for me, Philipp Lahm is definitely one of them. Now, Diego Forlan is my next player I'm thinking that will get into it, and that is because we've seen a leak of an Uruguayan striker icon card in some of the stuff that's been coming out recently. I think it was the Milan derby stuff. I'm fairly sure it's something to do with that. So I'd be very surprised if we don't see a Diego Forlan in next year's FIFA. Now, for me, it's going to be one of those cards. I don't know what his skill moves or weak foot would be. That seems to be quite important for a lot of icons in regards to their price long term. But otherwise, we're just going to see another sort of Van Basten style card, or you know, another Shearer that isn't particularly quick, doesn't have the great skill moves and stuff, but is a great finisher. So it's one of those ones that unless he's got the skill move and weak foot, which is something I don't know what he would get. I don't know enough about his, you know, seen enough of him to be able to go, oh, he'll get this star, weak foot and skill move. But regardless, I think it'll be a really cool card to see. I just hope it's not one of those cards that gets killed off by having dodgy weak foot skill moves. But I think it'll be an interesting card to see. It's not like a catalyst on that. And you're absolutely laughing, or an engine. You guys know the drill. Like these cards, I think, again, as a concept, I think they look great. Another Spanish midfielder I think would be amazing to add to the game, and is someone that I was kind of expecting to see instead of Guardiola when Guardiola got added into the game, is Javier Alonso. I think Javier Alonso would be fantastic to get into the game. A real versatile midfielder that was, you know, had a fantastic career, you know, in England, in Spain, in Germany, a player that did it all, and I really think I'd be surprised if he didn't get a card of some sort. It's one of those kind of cards that, you know, is like the ideal CDM that would run box to box. So for me, I play, you know, certain players now in a CDM partnership, and Xavi Alonso I think would be perfect for that. Great links to a lot of people again, and again for me, I was kind of surprised to see him not be in the game already. I think he was in management. I'm not entirely sure what it is he's doing now, but realistically, I think this would be great to see him added to the game, and if he does, I think a lot of fans from a lot of different countries, a lot of different fan bases and clubs he's played for, would definitely be wanting to snap this card up. Now, a card that I don't know if we're going to see. David Beckham obviously has his licensing thing with Pairs. I don't know as and when that runs out, and I don't know the logistics of EA managing to get the rights to add him into the game. However, if David Beckham was added, my God, this card would be incredible. For me, it would be just one of the most sought after cards. He would be so expensive. For me, he'd probably get similar sort of hype to like a George Best. I really think that he will bring a lot of hype to the game, and I think a lot of people would love to get him. He's probably going to be hella expensive though, but again, I've gone with stats that I think kind of suited him. I know he did play centrally sometimes. I know he played on both wings, but I think right is where he kind of played most of his time, which is why I went with the right wing card. And again, it's an incredibly good looking card. Hopefully, if he does get it, it's anything like this, if not better. And David Beckham would be an awesome addition to get to FIFA 21. I'm not going to lie, I'd be loving to try and get this card. But again, he'd probably be a lot of coins. For me, one of the most iconic people looking back when I think about my history of watching football, Edgar Davis is always somebody that comes up like into the back of my mind. And I just think, you know what? Edgar Davis, A, was fantastic, but B, for me, is so iconic, regardless of whether you thought he was the best player in the world or not, which I'm not saying he was the best player in the world, but I do think he was good enough to warrant getting an icon card. And I think, actually, the goggles would be like the Yashin cap effect. I think people would love to see that. I think it would be a really cool addition to the game. Again, it's another player that I kind of think, like, he's probably been like on the interim of being added as an icon, but they've probably just gone with other people ahead of him, which is a slight shame because I think realistically this is another real good fun looking card. I think it'll be somewhat similar to a Seedorf, not quite as I don't know, not quite as attacking maybe as Seedorf, but I think he'd have the ability to go forward as well. For me, I kind of remember him being that midfield engine, and I think he'll do just that. So if Edgar Davis would add it to the game, I think A, he'd get the hype just because of the goggles, and I really hope they do add him with goggles if he does come into the game. And B, I think he'd be popular anyway. I mean, Dutch icons seem to always get a lot of hype because Holland have had so many great players in the past. So Edgar Davis, I think, would be awesome to add to the game. I honestly think Ashley Cole is one of the best left-backs in, at least in English football, that we've seen in recent time. And I seriously think Ashley Cole, in his time, was possibly the best left-back in the world. And I genuinely mean that. And that's coming from a QPR fan saying that about a Chelsea player. Like, come on now, I'm not going to mess about in that regards. But I think Ashley Cole, again, like I was saying before, with the fullback market on the icons being a tad short, I think this will be a cool addition. I don't think he'll be as good as Roberto Carlos, but I do think that Ashley Cole will get a fantastic card if he did get himself an icon. Wasn't necessarily the quickest of fullbacks, but he wasn't slow, and I do think that he'd get a really, really cool card, and I think he'd be popular with a lot of people. You know, obviously he played a short time in the Championship at Derby, played in the MLS, and obviously played for a lot of Premier League teams as well. And I really do think that he'd be a really cool addition to the game. And I think it's the kind of icon we can expect to see. There are already a lot of English icons from that kind of era, but that's because there are a lot of iconic English players from that era. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ashley Cole was the next person in that batch, along with people like Beckham, to be added. Now, this last one is my biased one. Pick number 10 is Stan Bowles. For me, my most iconic footballer of all time, obviously as a QPR fan. Apologies for the shoddy job on the cutout here. This, you can tell that I struggled to find good images, and that's all on me making that cut look horrific. I've given you a bad trim there, Stan, so my bad, mate. But honestly, I think this card would be phenomenal to get into the game. I don't know how many people know about Stan Bowles. I don't know how many people are even really aware of who he is, but for me, he's one of my favourite footballers of all time, and I'd love to see him get a card. Again, like I said with the Beckham card, obviously he did play centrally as well. He kind of played behind the striker as well as out wide. But from a lot of things that I've seen, obviously because he played before I was born, but from watching him back in clips and stuff, like the stuff he did out wide was just absolutely fantastic. Is why he's got such a high dribbling stat, because his dribbling was phenomenal. Great finisher as well. Obviously played for other teams. Obviously started off at Man City, and there's a lot of English teams he did play for. But realistically, I think it would be a great gesture from EA if they did think to add someone like Stan Bowles in. Obviously going through a lot of health situations and issues right at the moment, but I think Stan Bowles on a personal level would be the #1 icon on my list. Obviously I know not everyone would be the same, but for me he is the priority I would love to see in FIFA 21. But that is the end of our FIFA 21 icon potential list. Now, one thing I do want to say, if you would like to pick yourself up, as I said at the start, any of these cards or any other icon cards for FIFA 21 of your choice, then do check out Dynamic Foot Store. They are fantastic. They're great quality cards. Like I said, I've got them on my wall. I love them, and a massive thank you to them for supporting us. And if you use code Hursty at checkout at the time of recording, you do get yourself 50% off every other card you buy. So if you have 2 in your basket, you get 50% off the second card. But for now, guys, I want to say thank you so much for watching this. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, then please do leave a like on the video. It helps me out so much. Hit that subscribe button if you want to be here for more FIFA 20 and 21 content, and make sure you turn on notifications to be told anytime that we upload a video or indeed go live with a live stream. But for now, guys, I want to say a massive thank you for watching. I've been Tom. You guys have been awesome, and we'll see you soon. Look after yourselves, and of course, wash your hands. In a bit.
Let's go. Hursty games, and this how we do. Now it's time we team up. Check them online, you might catch them playing FIFA. Hey, yeah, you know we keep it live. Make sure to give a like and subscribe. Gaming channel, what's the best one? Keep it hella dope, hella fresh, huh? Yeah, Hursty games, tune in. Even told my grandmama, sister, and my best friend. You might want to check them if you want to be entertained. You already know the name. Check us out, Hursty games. Hey, whoop. Make sure to give a like and subscribe.